It is another beautiful day in the live streaming podcast streets. Happy Tuesday. I hope you all are well. If you're watching this, you are watching from Facebook, Twitch, or YouTube. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and join us in the group Plan to Podcast. That is PLANTOPODCAST. The easiest way for you to find us is our website, Plan to Podcast. We are a community of thriving podcasters, and you should be in community with us. And speaking of which, I want to give a quick shout out to our podcast members, the newest people who have joined us. I'm going to go through the long list. I'm just going to share this to the group before I do so I can make sure that they get the plug when I give it. All right. So shout out to our community members. Thank you all for joining us. I'm so excited that you're with us. I look forward to see what you all do in community, how you scale your platforms. Jessica, Brandy, Jamal or Jamil, Maddie, Joy, Rodoston, Taisha, Deb, Dwayne, Daniel, Cedric, Tasha, Hunt, Chat, Lisa, Jennifer, Jason, Steffi, AJ, Zen, Nancy, Ashley, Louis, Claire, Tara, Dr. Cornelia, Jason, Casey, Bridget, Tracy, Shannon, Courtney, Wanda, Joseph, Terry, Job, Inger, Christopher, Chelsea, Matthew, Kimberly, bodies, Rose, Tamilia, Micah, Katie, Vicky, Lewis, Dale, Bonita, Joe, Nicholas, Colin, Sharon, Danielle, Brian, Dr. Tina, Chris, Crystal, Travis, Sarah, Bill. Now, some of these I did skip. I'm not even going to lie to you. I skipped them because I just didn't want to butcher the names. And some of these I'm thinking to myself, are these bots? There was a time when I would say you get no entry, and I kept the group like very, very tight. No diddy. I kept it very close and very tight, and I tried to control the space, but I see that there are people who are trying to break through and people who have a lot of questions and who want to be in community with podcasters. So I'm taking the reins off just a little bit. But some of these profiles, I'm like, I don't know. I don't know if you're really an individual, if you're really a bot or not. But nonetheless, you're here and Plan to Podcast. We're so excited to have you again. So today's conversation is about, or the do. I'm going to do I see we have, okay, cool. I see I'm back. A community MVP shout out for the members of our podcast community. We're going to talk podcast news, a podcast tip, and we're going to dive into podcast promo do's and don'ts. If you're watching live, comment live. If you're catching the replay, comment replay. You guys go to the website again, plantopodcast.com, and get your tools, your resources, and things that you need to get started. We have a list to help you determine what's the best streaming platform. We have a list to help you determine what's the best equipment. We have something to help you determine the best editing tools to meet your specific needs. And then above all else, we have a podcast planner. So maybe you are still in ideation mode. You haven't yet fleshed out all of your ideas, but you need help. Instead of you coming into a group full of people who have all different answers about how to help you, my suggestion is you fill out the podcast planner, the form, and then what it does, it will take all of your answers. You need to copy and paste them into ChatGPT, but based on the prompt that we've included in the form, you take your answers, take the prompt, throw it into the ChatGPT, and you're going to have step-by-step actions about what you specifically need to do for your platform based on how you answer the questions. And then once you've completed that task, that opens the floodgates to other opportunities. Then you can bring that to me and we can do one-on-one support. Or you can take that information about your podcast plan and you can say, hey, ChatGPT, now that you know so much about what I want to do for my podcast, what can I do in this particular area? Or what equipment can I purchase? Or ideal streaming platform or whatever. So that is going to be the crux, is that podcast planner. You lose nothing and gain everything by you completing that form. It might take all of 5 minutes and it's for your benefit, not my own. It's something that you can use that's concrete, that helps you. Okay, I understand now what I need to do. I don't know if you guys know Lether Shooter. I understand it now. It is something to help you understand what steps, what actionable things you can do to actually start your podcast. And then once you get it to the point you need to get it to, you can take that same form, that same plan, put it back into ChatGPT and say, okay, now I've done all of these things that you told me to do. Now I'm ready to scale. So go to our website. Once again, plantopodcast.com. I'm going to throw it up for you. There is a podcast planner. It might also say an audit. Use that tool no matter where you are on your podcast journey and use it to help guide you into what should be the next steps for your platform. Okay, I see some people are tapping in. Again, if you're here watching live, I want you to type live. Let us know in the comments where you're tuning in from. Do you guys know we're going to be doing podcast pop-ups? This Thursday, actually, I'm going to be doing a 1-hour session talking more about the regional manager opportunity. But the regional manager opportunity is basically looking for anyone who is excited about onboarding, wants to be basically a brand ambassador, and can help us expand our network, help facilitate some of these pop-up events. I'm going to take these off so this is not a distraction because of the glare. But I did not prep myself and share that website. I will give you a quick glance. So behind the scenes, you guys. Behind the scenes. Okay. I'm building something for podcasters. It's almost like a meetup.com, but for podcasters in particular. Okay. Now, this is so that we can meet up with one another and do podcast related events. Let me give you a quick snapshot. Okay. Now, this is still being built out, so none of these things are actually clickable, but I want you guys to understand what I'm talking about here. So imagine meetup.com or Luma or Eventbrite, or even Facebook events, where you're able to then find podcasters in your area. You guys can do a live taping together. You can do a live event together. You can do some type of content and collab. It's entirely up to you. But not only is it a way to meet and link up with other podcasters that feel safe, where these people are vetted, but also it is a way to showcase your platform. So it's also a podcast directory. So this is basically the platform where we will then be linking up with one another and doing live podcast shows. But we need some regional managers that can help orchestrate and bring things together, especially when we do pop-up events. Like I might come to your city and I want to do a podcast panel and I want to talk about the hot topics. And I want it to be a fun mixer where we can all learn something, have a good time, get some content out of the whole situation, but also monetize from showing up and working together. So if you are a regional manager, there is an opportunity for you. And so Thursday, I'll be sharing more about what that looks like. But that was just, don't tell nobody else. Don't tell nobody. Okay. So regional managers, if you're interested, I need you to meet me Thursday. So in our group, if you go to the events tab is going to give you more information and the link to that Thursday meetup. So I'm going to reshare it on my main page and I'm going to reshare it to the group. So you guys can go ahead and register. I do request that you register so we don't have any weirdos try to join the group and sabotage the group. So I try to vet it as much as possible. So I just shared that event link to both my personal page on Facebook and my group on Facebook. If you're watching on my personal page or YouTube or Twitch, not Twitter, I'm talking about joining my community, plan2podcast.com. Check out the website, check out the free resources, join us in community. Maybe you're not ready to start your podcast yet, but maybe being amongst other people, might inspire you. So that's why we want you to join us. That's why we think it's important for you to take that next step. Let's get into some podcast news, shall we? Oh, actually, let me see. I did not think about who the community MVP person was ahead of schedule, but I want to give a shout out to, let me see. I'm going to give a shout out to, because I know my people intimately, so this is not difficult for me. Even though I didn't prepare, I'm still prepared because it's all right here. Okay, this is what community looks like. You have these people who show up all of the time, who reach out to you directly, and you work with these people. You know their stories. You get to see them in their element. I'm gonna give a shout out to Raw One. He has been on my platform in the past when I was doing a show called Follow Me Friday, I believe it was, years ago. So he's been on my platform. I've seen him grow and evolve. I see his platform grow and evolve. When I made a switch and I moved over to Fanbase, he was one of the first early adopters who moved over, and he's consistently posting over on that platform. So Fanbase is primarily used for the social audio component, and I think it's extremely valuable for podcasters, especially when you've built up a community of followers. But in the social audio space, you can do exclusive watch parties. You can open up conversations. So anything that happens in the news that you just want to talk about it right away, and maybe you don't want to be on screen to talk about it, but you just want to be in a room with other people to get a temperature check to see what other people are feeling, like Donald Trump and the whole Venezuela situation. Like, people immediately opened up a room on Fanbase, and you got to share YouTube videos, create watch parties, and have dialogue around these important topics. So I think it's incredibly valuable for podcasters. But Raw was one of those people who followed me over to that platform. I think I brought over about 20 people. Raw was one of them, and he still posts over there consistently, whether he has a following or not. He's still actively posting, because one day there will be an influx of people that come over. And for all of the people who are already on Fanbase posting, they will immediately get, traction. But Fanbase is also great because once you get over there, you start monetizing from day one. So it's not like on other platforms where a like is just a like, it means nothing. You can like somebody's content on Fanbase, and then you can also love somebody's content and give them hearts, and they're able to monetize, and it's only $5 to at minimum to be able to cash out every month. So people are seeing thousands of dollars in a month because they have exclusive communities over there. So that's why I recommend Fanbase. Nonetheless, Raw, I saw him yesterday. He's starting to move into skits now. So not only is he a podcaster, not only is he doing music, I believe, not only is he rocking his merch in almost every episode, but now he's doing skits. So he has a community around him pushing the vision forward. He's getting into short film, movies, and I just see him growing. And what I love about Raw is he's locked in. He shows up and does what he does consistently. He's always trying to post something in our group, but I always have to decline it because the rule here is no link dropping unless you go to the featured tab at the top of the group and look for the post that says drop your links or share your podcast links here. That's the only way you can link drop, because that means anybody that goes to that section really wants to see what other podcasts are out there. When you drop link to the main feed, that just clutters up the space and it's an eyesore, and people are not really coming to listen to your podcast episodes. But for those that do, they can go to that specific part on the what I call the community hub to find the links. Nonetheless, he's always link dropping. He's always consistently doing his thing, and he's consistently scaled his platform from the podcast to the community to showing up on the different platforms to rocking his merch to doing his music to now doing skits. So he's a full-on production, and I just want to give him a special shout out. So some of you guys at one point or another may get a shout out from me. That's the goal as we continue to have more people who are actively contributing to this space or who are actively shining bright. I will shout you out. I've shouted out Jamie, Ejente, Leonard, Coach Memory, Jennifer. Depending on how you engage and what you're doing, you get a shout out. And then shout out to Junior and Tango, who were in the comment section of the live yesterday. I appreciate you. They both are like my equal counterparts, meaning that we are at the same level. If not, they're probably a bit higher. Tango has a lot of like 15 or 20 years of experience in the music industry. So some of those same things he learned in music as an engineer can easily be applied here when it comes to producing a podcast show. So that's why I would say he's probably up here. And Junior, who has also amassed a large following, who gets big numbers and download numbers, who attends all of the events and rub elbows with a lot of other podcast peers that I feel are my equal or higher counterparts. So even though they were in the comment section asking questions, I know that that was only to help with engagement, and that was to help for anyone who's watching, an opportunity for you to get some of your questions answered because maybe you're too afraid to ask. So they were stepping in and filling that void, which I appreciate them. All right, so we did the community shout outs. I told you guys, if you're not already, join. Follow us is the website. We're also going to be looking for some podcast guests. So the next iteration of what I do, not only are we going to be doing live podcast shows, but I'm going to be starting the Plan to Podcast University. So if you are an expert at anything, whether it is production, whether it is thumbnails, whether it is whatever element you love about podcasting, I want your expertise. So I want you to come on and do a podcast interview with me for the Plan to Podcast, and we're going to put that into the university so that new members can access that content. And then there's a way for you to also get a piece of the pie with an affiliate deal. So if you're interested in being a guest, please call 253-349-2134. That is not my direct line. That is my AI assistant. And you just say, hey, I want to be a guest, or I want to schedule a meeting with Danny, and the AI assistant will get you scheduled. And then we can talk about what time is the best time to get you on for a podcast interview. That, I guess, is all of my housekeeping. Again, I gave a shout out to all of the new members. If you're new here, a few key things to keep note of. We don't do main feed posting. So you're not going to get your links shared in the group unless it's a flood feed Friday, or unless you go to the feature tab to drop your links. I try to create content based on the questions that are being asked of me in the group. So if there's like a recurring theme or, something that goes unaddressed, I will either create a podcast episode out of it, or I will bring it up in one of these lives. We do Podcast Power Hour Thursdays at noon Pacific Standard Time. That's me doing a webinar style session, or whatever you want to call it, where I am teaching you something that you can apply to podcasting. So in one week it was creating a one pager, the other week it was creating a website, the other week it was using Taylor Brands to get an LLC instead of you having to piecemeal everything together and go to different websites. Taylor Brands makes it easy, so everything is in-house. You also can get your logos and copyright and all of that stuff through Taylor Brands as well. So I walk people through that. And then this week, like I said, I'm going to be talking about what does becoming a regional manager look like, basically a brand ambassador for podcasters near me. So that's Thursdays at noon Pacific Standard Time that we do Podcast Power Hour. Occasionally, like this Monday, I taught about HoneyBook. How do you use HoneyBook to set up automations and lead forms as a podcaster? That was valuable for the people that attended. But we do try to put up the replays on the website, again, plantopodcast.com. The replay for Monday, the HoneyBook CRM replay, is not yet on the website, but everything else I mentioned is, along with any links that give you a discount for joining. So, all right, I think that's it with the housekeeping. Make sure you're checking the events pages and registering for the events and the online sessions, the webinars. Make sure you're following me on YouTube. It's not that you're supporting me, but it's, again, I'm creating content in podcast episodes to help you. So that's another thing. Every Wednesday, we have a new podcast episode that drops. So if you're following me, it is Danny Marie on YouTube, or you find the podcast Plan to Podcast, hence the name of this group, or you follow me on Substack. In all of those spaces, I am sharing the podcast content. Of course, we're also on Spotify, Apple, or wherever you stream your podcast. All right, that's a lot. Let me take a water break. Let me know again if you're tapping in, where you're tuning in from. If you're watching this live, type live in the chat. Or let me know what your podcast is about. Drop a link to your podcast. Or you can say where you are on your podcast journey. If you are still in ideation and you are expecting to launch soon, if you've already been podcasting and now you're into the growth phase, I just want to know what's tea? Where are you guys at? What comments do you have? You can also drop some questions. I'll try to answer those as well. So let me try to find. Okay. All right, let me see if I can. Okay, Tango is commenting, showing love.
Try to find. Okay, think about.
Okay, I don't want the double feedback. I don't know why yet that it doesn't show up here. Show comments on stage. All of my comments, no matter where they're coming from, should be accessible on my StreamYard. So I'm sorry, Tango. I want to watch. I want to listen. But I want to watch. I want to read, not listen. But if I listen, obviously you can hear the feedback. So then I'll have to go back and try to answer those after the fact. But I do appreciate the love in the comments section. Tango and I are partnering with, so the opportunities I told you about where we are doing more podcasting on the road, we're partnering with this brand called Too Hot. So we pitched them. It was a great pitch. I told them I was going to do something for them in the month of November. That never happened. I am a creative at the end of the day. And so there are certain things that I require and expect for myself, especially when I'm delivering on a thing for another client. It's different maybe for myself. My expectations for myself are a bit different. For me, it's like, I'll get there. I know I'll get there. But when I'm trying to deliver something for somebody, I try to go above and beyond. So that's been the holdup. But it's basically building out this course for their platform to invite more people into the conversation and help them launch their podcast. But then another part of the relationship is to do more live events, more podcast tours, and those types of things, more pop-up events for podcasters. So we created this merch. So Plan to Podcast is my brand. And because their brand is Too Hot, I thought that it would be cool to create this merch. So merch coming soon. We also have the coffee cup somewhere behind me, the hat, the sweater, it's sweater weather, and the coffee for right now, coffee mugs. But yeah, that they're already doing amazing things. They are a marketing platform. They have everything from concert tickets to hotel and lodging, but then they also do a lot of music artist showcases. And so we said, well, hey, you should also create the same thing for podcasters. And so hence why we are now going to be inviting some of you guys to join us out in the field doing more podcasting events. Podcast news. So 2 things that I saw in one of the news outlets that I follow is podcastnews.net. So the first thing is iHeart expands video. So iHeart is rolling out full-length video podcast distribution. Creators now will have the ability to upload through RSS, the same as audio. So, your audio, so on YouTube, you can upload your RSS feed and it's going to be audio only for, well, no, that's not true. On YouTube, of course, you can upload video and audio. So I think they're adopting the same thing. Whereas like on Apple, you're uploading audio, you're uploading an MP3 file. But with iHeart Radio, you're now able to then upload video as well. There will be no hosting fees and you keep creative control. And the reason why this matters to us as podcasters is now video becomes an extra layer, not a replacement for audio, but just another way to meet your audience. Meet people where they are at. Some people enjoy audio, some people prefer video. If you want to keep them entertained, you may have to do both. Some people, speaking about the podcasters, we like to hide behind the mic and we don't want to be on video. And there is, quite frankly, a lot of pressures that come with doing video because now you really have to produce and you really have to look the part. And I'm saying that about you guys. I'm not saying that about me. I don't care what people say, okay? I know that my journey is people watching me grow and evolve at every level, and that makes me more credible when I get to where I'm supposed to be. They're going to see the evolution and they're going to see, wow, she really did that, right? With the help of God and consistency, and showing up every day, no matter what was happening in her life. She really did that. And so, as a coach and mentor, that is why I continue to show up, whether it looks good or not. It's like I'm sharing and I'm being fully transparent with my journey, because that is a part of how I share my story, is through showing up every day and giving you guys the real, the raw, and showing up authentically. So that's a part of my storytelling when it comes to content creation, is showing you every part of me, good, bad, or indifferent. Now, some of you guys are afraid to show up on video. You have a reputation to keep and uphold, and I get it. But it does mean that, you get to meet your audience where they are at. It expands your reach as well. So that's why iHeart is deciding to move in that direction, amongst other things. Again, you keep your creative ownership and monetization. And then audio is still king. Do not be confused. 92% still listen to audio, especially those true crime podcasts. So most people, unless I think that you are a streamer who likes the Twitch and you like platforms like Joe Budden, Joe Rogan, where they do a full-on production and they're talking for a couple of hours, and you're chilling, you're rolling one, you're smoking one, and lighting one in the air, you're kicking back on a Sunday, sports are not on or whatever. So in those cases, those type of videos still go hard, but audio is still king. Video is optional. It's not required. Start with clarity, build community, then layer your video when it makes sense. So graduate to video when you're ready to do that. Don't feel pressured that you need to do video. Some of you guys have those questions. Do I need to be doing video, or can I still just do an audio podcast? Yes, you can still do an audio podcast. I would say, it should still feel like a production, and it should still give an experience, and you should still be creating value for the listener, but you don't have to move into video until you're absolutely ready to do so. Podcast news update number 2, YouTube and living room growth. Do you know people are watching a lot more, they say, on their TVs, so we'll say in the living room. So people watch 700 million hours of podcasts on TV as of October of 2025. YouTube is improving the TV podcast experience, meaning better search, shows, AI upscaling, bigger thumbnails, and shopping features, and competition is coming. So Netflix, I think in this month, is launching their podcasts on the platform. iHeart and others are adding video podcasts as well. Why does this matter to you? Viewers are binge watching podcasts like TV shows. Discovery is improving, but competition is rising. And if you're on YouTube, organize your episodes into series or playlists. I may do that for a podcast power hour session and teach you guys how to create playlists and organize your YouTube channel so you compartmentalize everything, especially if you have different segments in your show and you're chopping up your long form into shorter versions. You can segment things to make it easier for your audience to get access or discover those particular clips. All right. Let's get into The podcast promo do's and don'ts. Let me check. Let me try to check the chat really quickly once again. Don't forget to hydrate. I do not know about Spoutable. Tango says, do you know that Spoutable is Black owned and has both podcast and audio room capabilities? Nobody should be spamming in 2025. I love that. And that's why we're talking about the podcast promotion do's and don'ts. Spamming being one of them. That is not an effective strategy. Nobody cares about your links if you're not giving them context. Nobody has time to read anymore. So you have to be a little more strategic in how you promote. I don't know what I was talking about at the time when you asked the question, is it MP4? Prompt composition is an integral part of effectiveness in AI implementation. I agree. It's so funny. It's funny, but it's not funny. People perish for a lack of knowledge. And it's so interesting how so many people that have access to something as simple as AI refuse to tap into it because, I don't know, fear, ignorance, blissfulness, I don't know, but there's so many people that are struggling in silence because you refuse to adopt AI, when in all actuality, AI, yes, has its pros and cons like anything, but it can be used for the greater good. And it's really simple to do. It's really simple to use. Literally every part of your podcast, there's something involving AI that can help you. But a lot of you guys still choose to be stagnant. But I was inspired to say that because of Tango's comment. Prompt composition is an integral part of your effectiveness in AI implementation. So when it comes to the podcast planner, it's not rocket science. I've said that in our group before. But what I did do is take years of my experience, years of the questions that I know people frequently ask, my experience working with AI, all of the important questions that I know that helps you attack, the different parts and layers of your podcast. And then I came up with my own framework. So I combined all of that to create the questions and the prompt. And then only 8 or so of you have actually done that podcast, have used that podcast planner. And we have a group of 3,000 members. I know that we're all doing something different. Mind you, it was called Podcasting for Newbies. So if you're not really new to this, I don't know why you're in our group anyways. But anyway, if you are new and you have so many questions, I don't understand why you haven't used that easy to use tool that helps you get the clarity that you need. I talked about this on a podcast episode, I think last week. But you come into this space and you have these questions about your podcast, and you're going to get 50 different answers. It's like talking into a hallway with 50 doors. Everybody's going to have a different response about what you should do. And what that does is makes most people feel overwhelmed, confused, and feeling stuck, like worse than when you came. But instead, if you use the podcast planner I created for you, someone who has experience, someone who works with clients, someone who has made this into a full-time job, if you take my advice and use that planner with the help of AI, it helps you get the clarity that you need about the steps you need to take. So you can say, hey, I have a mission to do this type of podcast. I want to talk to these type of people. It can say, well, this is what I recommend you do. Step A, B, C, D. And then after you have that information from the Chat GPT, then you can go into the group and say, hey, Chat GPT told me based on what I answered in the questionnaire, it said I should have this type of equipment. Tell me, what do you think about the Shure mics, the Rode mics, the Manos? That is how I think you should do things instead of the other way around. Come in with a clear idea of what you want to do first. Instead of looking for confirmation from everybody else, you should only look to the people to affirm what you already know. And you can only get that clarity when you do the podcast planning tools, in my opinion. You can come to the group and you can get all the help you need by the group. This is what community is for, is to support you. But I see community more as holding each other accountable to our goals, clarifying questions that you already have, and just bouncing ideas off of each other, networking with each other. Like, we're going to be doing more watch parties. We're going to be doing podcast episode drops. So for those of you who are interested, we're all going to meet up online and we're going to do podcast drops for each other. Like, a podcast drop is, hey, make sure you go check out Tango with his podcast, The Black Assassin, the Black Social Media Assassin. Or make sure you check out Danny, the host of the Whole City Hustle podcast, Wednesdays at 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. So we're going to do those type of drops for each other. But that's what I think community does for one another. It's not come to the group and ask for people to answer your questions and confuse you. It's only so that they can affirm you and lift you up and hold you accountable to what you already know you're going to do. Start with the plan first, then come to the community second. Anyhow, that was a tangent. Let's get into the podcast promos, do's and don'ts with the last 10 minutes that I have. And I think this 2:00 Pacific Standard Time hour is probably going to be when I come on and do my lives. Let me know if you can think of a better time. Okay, podcast promo. This is the 5th P in my 5 Ps to podcast success. This is absolutely necessary, obviously, if you want to scale and grow your platforms. What I find most of us do is we only talk about the podcast the day that it airs. And then the second thing people do is drop the link in Facebook groups. You don't give context, you just drop a link. Like, who the fuck cares? I don't even cuss, but I have to get that out. Literally, who fucking cares about your podcast links? Especially if you're not going to say who this is for. Nobody's going to go, hey, let me go tap into this. Nobody's doing that. You might get a few people, but not a lot of people are literally, not a lot of people are going to take the time out to go through each of the links that are being shared in these Facebook groups and take the time to listen. Now, I do it because this is a part of the community that we're building. So the group is solely focused on podcasting tips for podcasters. So this is my community and my ecosystem. So that's why I'm starting to now drop the links to the lives. But other than that, if you're not giving context, if you're not saying who this is for, or any of those things, it's rare that people are going to take the time out to listen. So you have to have a better strategy if you're promoting your podcast, which, just with a broad stroke of a brush, let's say in person, are you going to conferences? Are you going to networking events? Are you going to your local meetups? Are you attending events that you see from Facebook or from Eventbrite or from meetup.com or Luma? Are you going to different coffee shops and giving them your flyer? Are you doing like events where maybe the sole focus is not promoting your podcast? Maybe the focus is, collecting canned goods for the homeless, but at the same time, you're giving them one of your business cards or a QR link to find your podcast. Are you tabling at any of these events? If you go to peerspace.com, they have these cute, depending on where you're located, they may have cute kiosk areas where you can do a pop-up. And you have your banners, your flyers, your table covers, and all of the things to promote your podcast. Are you doing those type of in-person events? That is what real promotion looks like. Or online, are you showing up as a guest on other platforms? Are you going live throughout the week before your podcast episode airs? Are you doing the audiograms? Are you going to other platforms like Pinterest, Reddit, and joining people in the forums and having conversations about specific topics, and then using your link to back up your commentary in those different forums? So yeah, those are the different ways to promote. Are you building an email list? Does that email get sent out to everyone the moment you go live with a new episode? Do you have a funnel? Do you have a lead magnet? Are you nurturing those leads? What are the different touch points? And maybe you hire somebody to send DMs. There are tools like ManyChat, Go High Level that can automatically send things to people if it's on autopilot, basically, or automate it to where they comment one word and they will receive a link to your podcast episode. Like, there's so many different options to promote, but most of us only get stuck at sharing our podcast link the day the episode goes live, or going to different Facebook groups to share your link as if anybody cares. They're all doing the same thing. Why are people going to listen and watch? Everybody feels like they have too much on their plate as it is. So you have to be creative and try to meet people where they are at, and not just do everything. And I don't know, I feel like I'm coming down hard on some people, but it's like everybody moves like sheep. You're just moving and just going with the whole herd. Be different, stand out, and that's how you rise to the top. Your marketing can be different. I talk about this often. When I did my first podcast, I rented out a movie theater. I had the whole red carpet, like it was a real premiere. They stood in front of the banner, and I asked them to talk about what they just saw when I premiered the episode on the big screens. I used it as content. I hired a driver. I made a full video production. That was the launch of my podcast. So when I say step out the box and be unique, that's really what I mean. When people launch podcasts nowadays, it's just like, hey, I launched. It's quiet. It's crickets. One of the best people that I saw do it was B. Simone, talking about her launch. She was podcasting with her, at that time, best friend. And then, whatever reason, they split up. And so she was stepping back on the scene. But she gave us some teasers. I loved what she basically did. Not necessarily how she did it, but I love just the marketing and the production side of things. So she cut her hair. She stepped on the scene with this silver haircut with a bad red suit. She was playing back all of the, kind of judgment and critique, and basically was saying how she was getting criticized for everything that had transpired. So she's playing back all of those clips as she's walking onto the set. And then when she gets on the set, she's like taking a deep breath, and you just see this red suit right in the back of her head. And she's like, taking a deep breath, let's try this again, which is the name of her now podcast. And she moves the empty chair out of the way to say, I'm stepping back on the scene solo dolo now. So I just loved the thought process. Maybe you don't have the budget to do all of that. I'm sure you can hire one of your friends to put a camera in your face and you come up with something creative to promote your podcast. And that's what you use for content. But promo do's and don'ts. Do lead with the listener. Talk about the benefit, not the episode. So if you struggle with X, this episode will help you do Y. So people don't care that you published. They care that what you can do can help them. 2, do promote multiple times in different ways, meaning clips, quotes, carousels, audiograms, polls, reminders, same message, different doors to walk through. One post equals crickets. A strategy equals momentum. 3, do connect the episode to real life. Tie it to trends, pain points, or conversations already happening. So when listeners can say, oh, that's me, then they click. What does that look like? Okay, so yesterday, my guy Jose, I forget how you pronounce his last name, but Jose, years ago, had been captured. He's from Venezuela. So years ago, he had already featured on Anderson Cooper's platform, talking about what happened to him, how he was in captivity, right? And basically he has a book. He's been on other big platforms like Anderson Cooper's platform. But because of what happened in recent weeks with Donald Trump in Venezuela, then Jose repurposed that same content from a few years ago where it made sense to insert. So people are talking about it. He can say, hey, I've been talking about this topic. Check out the episode or check out the link when I was featured on Anderson Cooper's platform, then come back and holla at me. I've been on this, right? So that's what that looks like. Connecting your episode to people's real life, where it actually matters and where people actually care. Promo don'ts. Don't say new episode, go listen. That's lazy marketing and it tells people nothing. Always explain why it matters. 2, don't only promote on one platform. Your audience is scattered. You should repurpose everywhere: email, stories, reels, communities, YouTube, LinkedIn, even if it feels repetitive. Visibility beats perfection. And 3, don't disappear after posting. Engage, reply, ask questions. Remember, community is built in the comments, not the caption. And if you post and ghost, don't complain about your low reach. You guys, that was a lot. I talked about a lot. I was rambling. I was all over the place, but that's just how I like it, okay? It just oozes out of me, this podcasting stuff. I hope that you guys meet me tomorrow. I don't know what we're doing, but we're going to do another live tomorrow. Like I said, 2:00 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, most likely. Join me this Thursday at noon, where I'm going to talk about what does it mean to be a regional manager and work with us. And when I share something, take heed, because I mean it. I live, eat, and breathe podcasting, and I want you all to be successful with your platforms. And always reach out if you have any questions about anything that I shared. Again, if you go to plantopodcast.com, let me drop that link. Plantopodcast.com. This will take you directly to our community where you can access our tools and resources, get the support that you need, jump into the community, listen to the podcast episodes when they go out, participate in the webinars when we do them. Join us when we do the watch parties, and that's coming up. Podcast pitch party, watch party, podcast tours, all of the things. 2026, let's go. I am Danny Marie, your podcast coach, mentor, the podcast strategist, your podcast bestie. Have a lovely Tuesday.